Will someone tell me why? This is it, isn't it? The Day of Recreance. Okay, just picture this for a second. You're standing right in the middle of a battlefield. All around you are these legendary glowing warriors from ancient history, and you're screaming at them for answers as they literally just drop their weapons and walk away, leaving humanity completely doomed. That desperate plea comes from a man named Dalinar, and it pretty much throws us right into the deep end of one of the wildest mysteries ever written.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are cracking open a massive, giant puzzle box of magic, betrayal, and war. We're talking about Brandon Sanderson's absolute masterpiece, The Way of Kings. If you're in stories where the stakes are basically life or death, and where teenagers and broken warlords have to survive a world that is literally trying to crush them at every turn, well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to break down the core plot of this massive book, and yeah, consider this full storytelling mode, which means epic spoilers ahead. So, let's just dive right in.
So welcome to the brutal, super fractured world of Roshar. Just look at this place. This is the Shattered Plains. It's this endless expanse of broken rock, totally sliced up by these sheer, bottomless chasms. It honestly looks like a giant plate that someone smashed and then sort of shoved the pieces back together, leaving these deadly gaps. This isn't your cozy fairy tale kingdom, right? This is a violent, storm-battered landscape, and it perfectly sets the stage for an explosive story where the fate of literally everything rests on just a few incredibly broken people.
Part 1. The Assassin in White, the murder that broke the world.
Every epic story needs a spark, you know? That one insane incident that throws everything into total chaos. Well, for the world of Roshar, that spark was a super high-stakes, magical assassination. Meet Szeth Sun Villano, Truthless of Shinovar. Szeth is an assassin, but the wild thing is, he is absolutely crushed by guilt. He wields this mystical Shardblade, which is a weapon that doesn't just cut stone, it literally severs your soul. Plus, he uses this magic called Stormlight that he sucks out of glowing gemstones to completely mess with gravity. Like he can literally stick a heavy dable to a wall to block a door, and then just casually take out a whole room of guards. But get this. As he's brutally murdering the Alethi king, King Gavilar, he's weeping. He completely hates what he's being forced to do.
And the worst part is, Szeth knows exactly what the fallout is going to be. He whispers to his mysterious boss, this will cause chaos, infighting, war, confusion, and pain such as the world is rarely known. So this wasn't just a hit. It was a totally calculated catalyst to kick off a world war. Because Gavilar was murdered, all these powerful princes unite and launch this devastating, never-ending war of vengeance out on the Shattered Plains against the people who claimed responsibility for the hit, a group called the Parshendi.
Part 2. Slaves of Bridge 4. The Chasm of Despair.
Okay, so now we transition from the crazy world of royal assassinations down to the really gritty, brutal reality of our main hero, Kaladin. Imagine being a teenager with your whole entire life mapped out. 7 years ago, Kaladin was this incredibly optimistic kid studying to be a surgeon like his dad. But then everything just goes horridly wrong. To protect his little brother, Kaladin enlists in the army. By the time he was barely 15, 4 years ago, he was already fighting as a squad leader. But skip to the present, and he's been completely betrayed, falsely branded as a deserter, thrown into a cage, and sold into slavery. Today, at just 19 years old, he has hit absolute rock bottom as a suicidal slave on the Shattered Plains.
You really have to understand the pure nightmare that is his current life in Bridge 4. So, those armies fighting out on the Shattered Plains, to get across those giant deadly chasms we talked about, they use slaves. Bridgemen. They are literally a suicide squad forced to carry these massive, heavy wooden bridges across the gaps, running completely exposed in front of the armored soldiers. No shields, no armor, they are just meant to be arrow fodder to draw the enemy's fire. It's this impossible, horrific meat grinder designed to just crush a person's spirit until they die.
Kaladin's world is just insanely unfair. On one side, you have the Light Eyes, these nobles with literally light-colored eyes who run everything. They're throwing lavish parties, eating exotic foods, scheming for money, and basically treating this horrific war like it's a giant competitive video game where the prize is more magical swords. But then on the flip side, you have the Dark Eyes, teenagers like Kaladin who are literally carrying the weight of the nobles' war on their shoulders, bleeding out in the dark chasms. So yeah, Kaladin feels this deep, burning, totally justified hatred for the Light Eyes who are treating human beings like disposable game pieces.
Moving on to Part 3. Visions of the Past, Madness or Prophecy.
Let's jump back up to the elite leadership for a second, because we need to talk about High Prince Dalinar. He's the murdered king's brother. Dalinar is this legendary, terrifying warlord, but he's got a massive problem. He might actually be losing his mind. See, Dalinar is completely obsessed with finding some kind of meaning in his brother's death. So he starts strictly following the Alethi Codes of War, which is this ancient, super rigid set of rules about honor and restraint. And even crazier to his peers, he makes his scribes read him a totally taboo book called The Way of Kings. It's a book tied to those disgraced, ancient magic knights we mentioned, and it teaches that leaders should actually serve the people they lead. In a society of cutthroat warmongers, trying to be a good guy puts a massive target on Dalinar's back.
There is so much tension tearing Dalinar's life apart right now. To his rivals, and honestly even to his own teenage son, Adolin, Dalinar looks like an aging, delusional guy who is totally losing his edge. Why? Well, because every time these epic, magical mega hurricanes called Highstorms roll in, Dalinar straight up collapses and starts having these vivid, interactive hallucinations. He's absolutely convinced he's a brilliant general, getting prophetic visions of the ancient past from God himself. His son? His son thinks he's just having crazy flashbacks of old battles.
But here's the kicker. The visions are totally real, and they force Dalinar to ask this massive, universe-altering question. Why did the Knights Radiant betray mankind? In the visions, Dalinar actually witnesses the Day of Recreance, that infamous moment the magical protectors of the world just gave up and abandoned everybody. And this mysterious voice keeps telling him to unite them. This is literally the ultimate mystery of their universe. Dalinar looking into the past for answers is directly tied to all these strange, long-lost magical powers that are secretly waking up in the present.
Which brings us to part 4, A Scholar and a Thief, the ultimate heist.
So while Dalinar is obsessing over the past in the war camps, we pivot to a brilliant teenager hundreds of miles away. She's diving into those exact same ancient mysteries, but she's got a completely hidden, incredibly desperate agenda. Meet Shallan. She's traveled super far just to become the student of this genius, controversial scholar named Jasna Kholin, who, fun fact, is Dalinar's niece. Shallan is an amazing artist. She draws all the weird, alien-looking life of Roshar with a literal photographic memory. And together, she and Jasna are researching the ancient past to find the truth about the Voidbringers, the legendary monsters the Knights Radiant used to fight.
But okay, here is the massive plot twist. Shallan isn't just some eager nerd wanting to study history. This brilliant young student is actually a desperate thief in disguise. Her dad is dead, her family is drowning in debt, and some really bad people want them dead. The only way she can save her brothers is by stealing Jasna's soulcaster. It's this crazy, powerful, magical artifact that can turn matter into other stuff, like turning a rock into food or gold. Shallan completely faked her way into this entire apprenticeship for one reason, to get close enough to steal it.
The suspense here is just off the charts, because Shallan genuinely loves learning from Jasna, but she has to do this dark mission. And honestly, she actually pulls off the ultimate heist. She manages to stash her family's broken, useless soulcaster in her jewelry case and swaps it for Jasna's working one. She literally pulled it off. It completely changes her entire life, but oh man, it also risks the fury of basically one of the most powerful and terrifying women in the world.
Part 5. Journey Before Destination, the Ancient Odes.
All right, let's bring all these insane threads, the ancient magic, the visions, the massive war, crashing together for the grand finale back on the Shattered Plains. Kaladin is down in the chasms, and he is at the absolute edge. He's lost everyone he's ever tried to care about. The nobles in charge literally want him and his friends dead just to save a few bucks. He hits rock bottom. He's seriously standing at the edge of a cliff, about to just end it all. But then, guided by this tiny, mysterious little wind spirit named Syl, who's been following him around, Kaladin makes the ultimate choice. Instead of giving up, he decides he's going to turn Bridgefor from a miserable suicide squad into a brotherhood. He chooses to survive, to rebel against the whole broken system, and to protect the people who can't protect themselves.
And by making that choice, Kaladin accidentally unlocks something the world literally hasn't seen in centuries. He speaks the immortal words, life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination. Guys, these aren't just cool catchphrases. These are the ancient oaths of the Lost Knights Radiant. Kaladin, a broken 19-year-old slave treated like garbage at the absolute bottom of society, just claimed the lost magic of the ancients. He gets the power to heal, the power to manipulate gravity. It is mind-blowing.
So, let's recap. We've got a king brutally murdered to kick off a world war. We've got an aging warlord seeing visions of a forgotten apocalypse. We've got a teenage scholar pulling off a massive magical heist. And we've got a suicidal teenage slave who just spoke an ancient oath and yanked the magic of the Knights Radiant right back into existence. But it leaves us with one terrifying thought. If a broken slave at the bottom of a chasm can wake up the ancient magic, what else? What darker, world-ending nightmares from the past are waking up right now on the Shattered Plains? Well, you'll just have to dive into the books and find out.